I'd like to confide in you something and have you react, and I always tell guests they can disagree with me fully, and it is not an issue. But I want you to know, and my listeners do know this, that I have developed, not only have I lost respect, but I have developed contempt for the medical establishment of the United States of America in the last year and a half, something brand new in my life. I never had this before. My brother is an esteemed physician. I won't say his name, but I know you would know him. He's in New York as well. And it is painful for me to tell you that, but I don't believe anything the AMA or the New England Journal of Medicine or Lancet or any of the others say any longer.
Well, I think there's a healthy dose of skepticism is what keeps people on their toes and really makes people strive for success. But I can tell you, of course, these are exactly the issues that I divulge into my book because of what has occurred. The American Medical Association has turned into a Goliath, and it doesn't necessarily represent the feelings or beliefs of the majority of physicians in the country. That's actually something I touched on in my first book, Make America Healthy Again. But, you referenced the New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, and, what has happened over the course of this pandemic is that the media and big tech has taken normal scientific discord and turned it into something that it didn't have to be, from face masks to hydroxychloroquine to many other facets of the pandemic. When people were trying to challenge opinions, challenge hypotheses to figure out what really will and will not work, unfortunately, the knee-jerk anti-Trumpism divided the country, and anyone who went against what popular opinion was deemed a charlatan who was, peddling snake oil.
That's right. So, were you surprised? In other words, is there any, in you a doctor, was there any parallel to this massive drop in respect for the medical establishment that I've experienced?
I've never seen anything quite like this before, and that's the reason, to be honest, why I did decide to do research on my own, was the rampant misinformation and politicization of everything that was coming out, which caused a massive amount of hysteria across the country, and it really hindered our response because of that. When I was writing about hydroxychloroquine, for example, that was supposed to be a small subchapter in my book. It ended up becoming an entire chapter of itself. Not because this old, cheap medication is really that interesting in of itself, but what happened regarding it was truly appalling. And unfortunately, because of the actions of even many esteemed academics and hospital systems and journals, yes, I think it would create anyone to actually begin questioning them, as it should.
For the record, again, I know my listeners know this, you would not. I have been taking hydroxychloroquine and zinc and ivermectin for the last year, and vitamin D. I've done the exact opposite of what the medical establishment has advised. The thought that doctors and organizations would react to a medicine that could help people negatively because they politically dislike the president who mentioned it is appalling.
I completely agree. It made sense that hydroxychloroquine early on was being studied as potential treatment because this is a widely used medication with known antiviral effects, and it had already been studied against the original SARS coronavirus. So when this novel coronavirus emerged, we had no proven treatments, no real way to prevent the virus. Yes, we threw the sink at it. Yes, anything that we think could work, it's time to look into that. And, while I don't, especially now, the state of emergency, in my opinion, is over. Cases and deaths have reached an all-time low. You have over 60% of American adults have been vaccinated. Add that to your natural immunity levels. We're quite close to herd immunity if we're not there yet. The state of emergency is coming to an end. So I certainly wouldn't recommend anyone taking any hard-hitting medications to prevent this virus at this point, as community transmission is very low. But what did occur, and the fact that people were censored by big tech when they we're looking into something is really quite criminal.
That's why my first question to you was, how did your colleagues react? So I'll put you on the spot here. I have had epidemiologists and other physicians, physicians. Epidemiologists are not physicians necessarily. I have had both on, some of whom have said that if we had taken therapeutics like the ones I mentioned, we could have saved about half the lives of those who died from COVID. Do you agree with that?
That's a stretch to say that that's how many lives would be saved. The truth is, yes, we were delayed in terms of putting forth treatment plans. We got a lot wrong in the beginning. People were being put on ventilators when they should not have been. People were not giving certain treatments. They were very restrictive with the monoclonal antibodies. Data on hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, still, I can find you just as many studies showing they work versus they don't work. But that's what happens in a time of crisis, because you're not trying to come up with a great clinical trial. You're trying to save lives. And so if there was only more support in the medical community, then as people were trying to treat people, we would have gotten more information, whether they work, whether they don't work. But could lives have been saved if we formulated better treatment plans in the beginning? Absolutely. How many? I'm not sure, and I don't think anybody can actually say.
Right, okay. But we would have saved lives if we'd have gone that route. Give me 2 examples, or more if you like, of panic.
Well, so not only am I a physician, but, I'm a mother of 3. And what's happening right now in terms of children, it's really upsetting in the sense that you have adults, anyone who wants to be vaccinated is vaccinated at this point. You have teachers who have had access to the vaccine as long as they wanted. And now you still have children being told that they have to continue wearing masks. They have to continue wearing masks indoors and outdoors. And some states are even saying if for children to go back to school in the fall, it'll be contingent upon vaccines that's under an emergency use authorization. They're going to have to wear masks. But here's the thing. When it comes to young children, COVID is not an emergency. Transmission is down. And we have already seen that this virus does not affect children as severely as other populations. And now we even have more data showing what we already knew. Those hospitalization rates for children are likely even less because they were accounting for asymptomatic incidental cases. So we have got to get away from this perceived level of risk with this virus and move towards reality. The truth is people are now paralyzed in fear going forward. They're more fearful of COVID than cancer. They've stopped getting their cancer screenings. And we have people not allowing children to be in school and to play, hindering some of their development because they're so fearful of this virus. And until we move away from a perceived risk to reality, we're going to continue doing harm.
An important book, A Courageous Physician, Panic Attack.